Welcome to Different Makes a Difference, where we discuss investment matters that matter to everyday investors. Join Odlum Brown's equity analysts as we examine pertinent topics in today's markets and look at things a little differently. Odlum Brown is an independent Canadian investment firm. We provide integrated wealth management solutions to help clients achieve their financial goals, and we've been doing so for over 100 years. Join us for some lessons we've learned along the way that can make a difference for the future.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I'm Stephen Boland with Odlum Brown. It's August, and many of us in Canada are coming off of a long weekend. Depending where you are, it was Heritage Day, Saskatchewan Day, Terry Fox Day, or one of many other holidays across the country. In BC, we celebrated British Columbian Day. A month ago for Canada Day, we looked at some Canadian success stories: Dollarama, Couche-Tard, CCL Industries, and First Service. Today, we're going to focus on a BC-based success story, and that's our very own Odlum Brown. Now, some may already know us quite well, others perhaps not so much, but I think we can all walk away today learning something new about our company, the industry, or business in general. Now, we often talk about the importance of management on these podcasts, so today we're going to talk to Odlum Brown's president and CEO, Trevor Short. Trevor is fairly new to the role, so it's a good chance to get to know him a bit better as well. Welcome, Trevor.
Hey, thanks, Stephen. Pleasure to be here.
So Odlum Brown first opened its doors in Vancouver in 1923, just over 100 years ago. Today, we employ around 400 people and manage more than $20 billion on behalf of clients across Canada and beyond. Trevor, you've been president for just over a year, but you've been with Odlum Brown for nearly 30 years. Tell us what Odlum Brown looked like when you started and what brought you to the company.
Yeah, super questions. Why I might be new to the role. I'm not certainly new to the firm in any means, having spent 3 decades at the firm. Going back, into the 90s, when I came on as a full-time employee, Odlum looked very different from where we are today. And while we've evolved and changed and morphed over those years, at our core, I think there's many things that have remained the same and for good reason. So I kind of came on following university in the mid-90s. The industry itself was very different from the landscape that we see today. Back then, of course, it was a very transactional business. It was that traditional broker-client arrangement and relationship where, the broker would phone up a client and basically make a sell around a trade idea, and that client would approve it, and the advisor would obviously trade execute and earn a commission from that process. Fast forward 30 years, and there's very few firms today that have that business model. Most have evolved with the changing landscape and the needs of clients as we look forward to much more of a wealth management, a holistic approach to managing clients' wealth. But back then, it was very transactional. It was very hands-on, exciting days in terms of being really hands-on with the trades and what was going on in second by second in markets in some instances. At Odlum, we had a bit of that business model, most certainly. We had very few portfolio managers back in that day. We were all advisors, and so the times were very different. Obviously, why things were moving quite quickly in terms of the markets, kind of behind the scenes, things were a bit slower. We had T+3 settlements, so 3 days of a settlement in order to settle a trade, and today we have T+1 settlement. So we execute trades today, and they settle tomorrow, and we're on a path to probably same-day settlement at some point. So things have changed from that aspect, but at its core, for us at Odlum, it was still a client-centric approach, and that very much remains true today.
And what brought you to Odlum Brown in the first place? How did you hear about the company? Where did you start there?
I got my start at Odlum Brown, I think it was in the summer of 1989. My mom ran our securities department at that time, and so in those years, it was referred to as the securities cage, and for many reasons, including a glass partition that separated it from the rest of the office, and, for security measures. But my first job was that summer, and I was working in the mailroom, which was just a cordoned off portion of the securities cage. I had dual function. I also was the messenger, and that entailed, with a partner, going around to the bank vaults and depositing and withdrawing share certificates to settle the trades that we had executed the previous day. That was my first start. And then I was fortunate enough to come back each summer and get a bit of more experience as I I worked through the ranks there, and I worked in various departments. I worked in the mutual fund department, the RSP department. I did a stint in our IT department. At the time, our IT department or our technology department was the two of us. I was responsible for setting up a server rack and pulling Cat5 cable around our offices at 609 Granville there. So I got a start at Odlum doing all the jobs that really no one else wanted to do. But in doing so, I got an opportunity to get a taste for the behind the scenes workings of Odlum Brown and what went into the day-to-day of trade execution and really client engagement through the client support component of our business that has evolved today.
Yeah.
Following university, so just to be clear, I've got a degree in animal biology from UBC. My initial intentions were to go to med school, but life happens. And as I worked more and more at Odlum Brown, I got a bit of a taste for financial business and the wealth business, and it really piqued my interest. So I started taking my securities courses, and I was fortunate enough to land a job on our bond desk following university. So I worked with Dave Pearson, who is our current chief trading officer. He and I ran our bond desk, and truly, I gained a ton of experience in this industry. I think it's an amazing place to learn the wealth business, from the credit side. And so I got a good taste of that. In 1999, so just before the tech wreck, of course, I got a tap on the shoulder from our then president, Ross Sherwood, to join him on the retail side of things. And his assistant was actually going back to the credit side. So we're making a bit of a switch in terms of roles. He was going to the credit side on another firm, but I was joining Ross in the retail ranks. And I was very fortunate to work alongside Ross until his retirement in 2009, where I took over his business and developed a portfolio management business along with a team that I'd built until I threw my hat in the ring a couple years back to become our president.
That's interesting. I imagine that breadth of experience is quite valuable now in your new role. And it kind of reminds me of some companies that we've liked over the years. Costco is really known for promoting from within. And I think their current CEO might have started as a forklift driver. And Hunter Harrison, who is a legend in the railroad industry, used to work out in the rail yards. I think it was putting oil into wheels or brakes or something. So it's always interesting to see companies where people can move up. And you mentioned the family connection. We've always talked about how we're a family environment. Now, you've also had the chance in your career to work with 3 different presidents. You've already mentioned Ross Sherwood. You worked with Tony Hepburn, more recently with Debbie Doucette. What did you learn from each of those leaders?
A super question. Firstly, I'd say it's an honor to have been able to work with all of them and learn from all of them. Amazing leaders, and we can thank where we are today for their leadership in the past. Going back to Tony, for anyone who knew Tony Hepburn, they would understand right away when I say that he was a true gentleman, highly respected across this industry, carried himself so professionally at all times, just an even-keeled demeanor. Obviously very intelligent, a CA back in his day, but developed that into a leadership style and a wonderful portfolio manager in his own right. He was my first mentor in this industry, absolutely. I learned a ton from him. He was actually my supervising portfolio manager, just a wonderful guy that shared a ton of ideas and really supported that next generation where he saw some potential, I suppose. I've got nothing but good things to say about Tony, and we still reference him and his thoughts today, even with his sad passing a couple of years back. So certainly a true gentleman, a mentor to many at Odlum and across our industry. Absolutely. I touched briefly on Ross, and when I kind of think back on my time with Ross and what I truly learned from him and his leadership was really around the relationship building aspect of our business. Anyone who knew Ross would agree with me that he was the life of the party. He was a big personality, extremely well connected across Vancouver. Back in the day, coming up through the 80s and 90s, Vancouver was really tied to the junior mining community, and Ross had deep relationships within that junior mining community that had formed. And through that, had made connections throughout the world, many of which have remained clients and good friends of mine even to this day. But really, Ross's teaching was about the depth of the relationship that you build with your client, and he was exceptional at doing so. Really accomplished in his own career. When I joined him in 1999, he was president and CEO of Odlum Brown, but he held many other roles across Canada, including the chair of the IDA, the Investment Dealers Association, held in very high regard across the industry. And again, it was all about those connections that Ross was so amazing at nurturing. And then obviously, as he retired, unfortunately to health reasons, Debbie Doucette took the reins. And I think we can really thank Debbie for the position where Odlum is today due to her leadership and her stewardship of our business. Probably one of my greatest mentors in our industry and a good friend to me. Just a wonderful person that cares deeply about our firm, but critically, I think she thinks strategically at all times and can think big picture and can lead a team around her to execute. And so I learn from her on a daily basis, it seems, and we continue our connection.
Yeah, you're describing upstanding individuals there, and I think to help keep Odlum Brown's reputation as strong as they have over the years is a great credit. And just to touch on, you mentioned Ross and his ability to connect with people. I remember when I joined Odlum Brown, I think I was 25 years old, and Ross used to come by, and he was president of the firm and decades older than me. And he'd just chat with me. And it was just like chatting with your buddy outside kind of thing. He was so good at that. And the other thing that really stuck out to me is when you mentioned Tony Hepburn and the even keeledness. And I remember years ago driving to Kelowna with Tony for our annual address where we go and visit clients. And it was me, Corey, who still works with us, and Tony. And we totally took a wrong turn. We missed the turnoff to Kelowna, so the 4.5-hour drive became, 7 or 8 or 9 or something. But I remember, Tony, you say gentleman, you say even keel, and that's exactly what it was. It was a delight for me to get, I'm sure it was stressful for him, the driver, to have to do it, but to be in the car for longer was just absolutely awesome to get to know him better. Now, Debbie was our past president, still involved with the company. I happened to be talking to her just yesterday. She still chairs our board of directors. Can you share a little bit more about what Debbie is doing these days, and how much do you still interact with her?
Absolutely. She is very present for good reason. Again, coming back to my comment around her caring deeply about the firm, its reputation in the industry, the people that work for the firm, so the team members, and obviously the client connections that she's made over the years still resonate with her and are close to her heart. I know that. But beyond that, she's been very open to continuing to mentor me and help provide a sounding board. Let's face it, she's got 35 years of industry experience, 17 years at the helm of Odlum Brown. How can I say no to welcoming me that opportunity to have her still alongside me? So it's truly amazing that she's there. She's been very clear that she's going to take a step back from, the day-to-day management, and that's now that rests on my shoulders. And I'm obviously up and welcome for that opportunity. But as far as guiding certainly our executive team, acting as a mentor to not just management and executive, but to all team members, and I know she'll make time for anyone to do that. She's a remarkable person in that regard.
And do you want to comment on the OB Foundation that she's involved with?
Yeah, absolutely. It's true to her heart. And I think it speaks volumes of where our community initiatives are as a firm. Debbie always says that giving back it's in our DNA. And it's true. And this is her legacy that she's set up here through the OB Foundation. I'm excited for it. We're going to learn more and more how it evolves here in the coming months. But we've got a great foundation. We put together a wonderful committee to get it set up, and we're looking forward to the difference that it makes in the communities in which we live and serve. So it's exciting times ahead.
So now, as president of the firm and CEO, you've got a chance to put your own touch on the firm. So what might you look to change, and what do you intend to keep the same?
Yeah. So I've given a lot of thought to this idea. When I look back on what has made us successful, I think those are the things that we need to keep, right? So we have to hold on to our past where it's defined our values and it's been our kind of guiding light. And we have a pretty simple business model. We look after our clients and we earn a stream of income from that. We don't get into complicated investments. We don't do financings. We don't get us into things that may get us into financial trouble down the road. And I don't really have any intention of changing that. What I want to do, I think I'm speaking for the whole team at Odlum Brown, is to continue to do an exceptional job for our clients, client-focused, client-centric, and really deliver on all those things that I think we've done exceptionally well over the past 10 decades plus. Just it's going to evolve and change as we know. Technology is increasing at a rampant pace these days, and the evolving needs of clients is also quite drastically changing. I think about even a decade or so ago, and the ask from clients is very different from what it was in 2010, for example. So we will have to evolve with that. We're up for the challenge, but at its core, it's really about looking after our clients, making sure that we're aligned with them, making sure that what we do, their interests come first, always.
Right. And I think that's a nice segue into corporate culture, which is something that you're going to, the culture gets set from the top to some degree. And we talk about the importance of culture a lot on these podcasts. What does corporate culture mean to you? Why is it important? And how would you describe it at Odlum Brown?
Yeah, it's a question that we get asked all the time, because, everyone kind of defines corporate culture in a different way, but what does it mean to us? In a way, it's evolved over the last 30 years plus that I've been there, and naturally so. When you grow from a firm of whatever it might have been, 150 team members to, I think it was 404 team members the other day, the corporate culture becomes harder to protect, harder to nurture, harder to grow, and you have to be really intentional about it. But you also have to have a purpose around it too. And you kind of touched on, that family feel around Odlum Brown. And I still think we're at a size where we can still have a family feel. We know many people. It's harder to know 400 people by first name, know a little bit about their family and friends. But I think we've been intentional about that. And we've done some initiatives in the past year through a newly formed leadership council to help nurture that corporate culture. Things like coffee connections, where team members are matched up out throughout the firm and across branches to take one another out for a coffee and learn a bit more about themselves, their families, what their interests are. And it just kind of builds that awareness of what goes into corporate culture. And and we look at it in a way, we've got a couple of sides to our business. We've got the client-facing, the retail side of our business, that is obviously the revenue generators, and then the client supporting side of our business. And we're really working hard to make that as a one company feel. And I think the more that we nurture our corporate culture, the closer that gets, and ultimately is a benefit to our clients.
Right. I would say the culture has been a real standout for me. And I've told this story to others before. I don't know that I've told it to you, but I'm originally from Newfoundland, as you know. When I graduated university, I moved to Toronto. I was working there. I worked at a big company that was based in Boston for a while, and then I worked with an Australian investment bank that had Canadian operations. And when I came to Vancouver and got a job offer out here, I didn't know much about Vancouver. I mean, the mountains were kind of nice, but I didn't have any real connection. And I kind of thought, well, you know what? This company's taking a chance on me. I'll give it a year or two, see how it goes. And 20 years later, here we are having this conversation. I know based on the longevity of a lot of people at the firm, there's likely a lot of people who maybe have stayed well beyond what they ever expected because of that corporate culture and just the quality of people.
Well, absolutely. At our AGM in June, we honor those that have passed milestones, right? And that list seems to get larger each year. Those that have surpassed the 25 years, the 30 years. I think we even honored someone who had been there for 40 years this year. So I think we're unique in that way, and particularly in today's world where those next generations tend to spend a shorter amount of time within a firm or even within an industry. I think there is the view that once you come to Odlum, there's a career path for you, and there's potential for longevity within this industry. So It's exciting.
Another differentiator for Odlum Brown, aside from its culture, is that we're independent and employee owned. And there's a lot of pride at Odlum around that. And it's less common than it used to be with investment firms. Why, in your view, is staying independent and employee owned a good thing? And how do we preserve that?
Yeah, great question. It does come up with many prospective clients as to why are you independent? Why are you employee owned? What are the benefits of looking at a firm like Odlum Brown versus a bank-owned institution, for example? At its core, it allows us to remove those conflicts of interest that we may see at other institutions. Simply put, we are there to work for our clients and look after their best interests. We don't have other revenue streams. We don't have a syndication or corporate finance department. So those conflicts of interest are eliminated. It allows us to focus on solely servicing and advising our clients. And I think that's becoming unique across our industry. I'm proud of it. On the research side of things, I think you can certainly relate, right? I think a great investment thesis entails skin in the game, right? And we talk about it all the time. Well, how much of your own personal wealth do you have invested in the business that you run? You tend to have a longer term view towards things, making decisions for the long term, which tend to be right, versus the short term, which tend to be weighed towards generating positive short term results from quarter to quarter. And without that external influence, I think, again, we eliminate that.
Yeah, some great points in there. The alignment, I know all my net worth is either in the stocks that we recommend to clients or in Odlum Brown itself as an employee-owned firm. Mm-hmm. And the independence as well. I think I'm in the research department, so I pick stocks. And, I worked with Debbie Ross and then Debbie and now yourself. And in all those 20 years, I never once had somebody come down and say, you need to recommend this company or you need to make this particular, don't recommend this. It's all been based on just do what you think is right for the client. And that's just a fascinating place to be. In terms of the employee ownership, I think another differentiation with us is that there's a breadth of ownership. It's not all concentrated in a few people at the top. There's a lot of Odlum Brown employees that are owners in the firm as well.
Absolutely. And again, that's been intentional. And we've seen some of our competitors in recent times struggle with a very narrow shareholder base. We've been intentional about that. And over 60% of our team members have some share ownership. And it's important. Again, coming back to alignment, it means that regardless of where you are in the firm, whether you're being client-facing or client-supporting, there's an alignment with doing the right things to help the client.
So you're Odlum Brown's 7th president in 102 years. So by my calculation, that means the average tenure of those before you is about 17 years. I think I asked you before, I can't quite remember, but you're early 50s?
53.
53.
Yeah.
So you got lots of runway ahead of you.
Yeah.
What do you think this industry will look like, and what will Odlum Brown look like in 15 to 20 years and beyond?
Wow, tough question. Mainly because the pace of technology change is so rampant. But I'd also argue that we've been through 10 decades of change, wars and pandemics, and you name it. Global financial crisis, you name it, and we've had to evolve around those events. It's going to be interesting to see where technology takes us. We've come a long way already in the past decade plus, particularly around the do-it-yourself wealth management platforms. But again, when I think back at this question, I think more about what isn't going to change over that period of time as truly being important. And for me, I think the relationships that you have with clients, that deep understanding of their own personal needs and that dedication to helping them achieve their goals, that's not going away. And that's where I think we'll thrive. Obviously, we're going to have to evolve around the technology piece, and we want to anyways because of efficiency needs and freeing up further bandwidth to actually spend more time with our clients in a more effective way. But again, coming back to the core, I think the relationships, that part is sticking around.
We got one last question, and that's, what do you miss about your old job as an advisor, and what's your favorite part of your new job?
Again, great question. I joked the other day that managing money for clients is very different from managing people. It has pros and cons, of course. But, I loved my job as a portfolio manager. Throwing my hat in the ring to become our president was a really challenging decision for me. I've spent 2 decades plus working with clients and their families, and many of those have become not just clients, but good friends of mine. And I was telling you the other day that I ran into a great client in Whistler one morning. My wife and I were going to do a yoga class, and first person I saw was our client. And I went over to her, and she gave me a big hug. And it means I've meant something to her and her family, and I miss that part of it, absolutely. Not to say that I obviously can't have contact with them on a regular basis, but it's a bit different than not managing their wealth. So I do miss that, absolutely. But I'm very fortunate to work, lead the firm for those clients still. I love Odlum Brown. I think we have a wonderful firm. I think we have an amazing niche in this industry, and we've got some big plans ahead. And I'm looking forward to us executing on those plans.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that was a great conversation, Trevor.
Really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for being here. I think it gives listeners more insight into the industry, into Odlum Brown, and into you as well. There's certainly a lot to take away. I think a key message for me is that the values of our company are not going to change. There will always be change around us, always has been, always will be. But as leader, you'll work to adapt, just as others before you have done over the last 100 years. But that commitment to putting clients first, to building relationships, and to treating people as they should be treated should endure. So thank you again, everyone, for listening. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hope your summer is going well, and we look forward to talking again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Different Makes a Difference. Just as every individual is unique, so are your financial circumstances. Be sure to talk to your professional advisors for advice related specifically to you. Our podcast is for general information purposes for Canadians only. The views expressed are those of the presenters and may not reflect the opinions of Odlum Brown. Be sure to check out our full disclaimer and subscribe to the podcast at odlumbrown.com/differentmakesadifference. Odlum Brown is a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund.